Hi there, we're on day 5, and this is part 2 talking about signs. You've seen them and I've seen them. You can buy so many signs. You can have them made specially. You can buy them in stores or in specialty shops. And the signs usually represent something that you believe in or something that is very thought-provoking. I'm not talking about the signs like I was talking about yesterday that you use for directions and so forth. But, sort of the nice signs, the decorative signs, the ones that are there that you put up in your house or your office or your trailer, and again, they kind of represent maybe who you are, and yeah, and they make interesting gifts and so forth. So some of the signs that we have in our house, just sort of little ones that we've got put around different places. One is live, love, and laugh. One is live fully. Another one is cherish every memory, love every moment, embrace every possibility. Another is life is not measured by the breaths you take, but by the moments that take your breath away. And I have this one too that I really like. It's very colorful. I'll just show you as it comes along. And it says, live simply, count your blessings, keep your promises, love generously, care deeply, and be true to your roots. There's a whole lot of stuff in those words, and I almost hesitate to do this because, we're just touching on some of those things. The live simply one is one that's quite interesting, and again, there's no way I can do justice in this in like 30 seconds. But the idea that within our Christian faith and how we live, that we can be very focused. I had in my second appointment, I believe it was, there was a family at the church that I was a core officer in, and and they had in their kitchen a map of the world, and the little sign above it said, "Live more simply, so others may simply live." And I thought about that often, and certainly in our hearts and minds as we focus on missions and think about that in our own lives. Think about how much we have and others don't have. My favorite person, in authors, Richard Foster, as I've mentioned already this week, has also written a book called Freedom of Simplicity. And there's also so many, you talk about voluntary simplicity, timeless simplicity, that, look at it from even a non-Christian perspective. But I just wanted to summarize somehow, again, within our Christian faith, what living simply means. And Dietrich Bonhoeffer, and this is from Richard Foster's book, before he died, said, "To be simple is to fix one's eyes solely on the simple truth of God at a time when all concepts are being confused, distorted, and turned upside down." And so Dietrich Bonhoeffer was a theologian. He died a young death, and he died at the hands of the Nazis, and has written some very, very good books, and very thought-provoking. And I believe that for us within our Christian faith, to live simply is to focus. There's so much going on around us in the world, but what is it that we are focused on? How are we living simply in that way? Again, there's so much more to that whole thing, and in living simply, but for our purposes here, that we would be focused no matter what's going on in the world, that we would be focused on Christ. The second one says, count your blessings. Well, of course, we sing that song, count your blessings, name them one by one. And it will surprise you what the Lord has done. And I talked about this when I did devotions in the spring. And that sometimes I think when we do actually stop and count our blessings and actually name them, one of the things I've done, and I've mentioned before, is, just take a moment and write down, or think of, but, write down maybe 10 things off the top that you're thankful for. Bam, bam, bam. And then another 10 things. and and just sort of go through and realize the many, many, many things that we are thankful for, or could be. So count your blessings. Keep your promises. Well, the Bible says that God always keeps his promises to us. 1 Kings 8 and 56, not one word has failed of all his good promises. And we sing, amongst other songs, but we sing, all the promises of God are sure. Through the ages, does truth endure. And so we are reminded of that, that we are to keep our promises because God keeps his to us. Love generously. The Bible reminds us to love our neighbors as ourselves, to love others as Christ loves us, and to do what we can to live a life of generosity and to love others. To be generous means to show a readiness to give more of something than is strictly necessary or expected. To go beyond, to love and to care for one another. And of course, during these days of COVID, we've had to do that in different ways. And some of you have been able to maybe maybe a bit out of your comfort zone, perhaps, in trying to contact people or do something to show how much you care. And maybe for all of us, we've all had to maybe look at things a little bit differently, and hopefully then when we get post COVID, that we can continue in our caring for one another. And that goes on with that caring deeply. So love generously, care deeply, to do again, to show the love of Christ in how we care for one another and in what that looks like for us. And be true to your roots. Well, depending on what your background is, you can have very strong roots. There's different clubs, nationalities, such and such club of, Barrie, or such and such club of Canada, and usually based on your maybe where you're from, or your place of roots, your family origin. And even here within Canada, there's certain areas I know for sure. The Newfoundlanders, my parents are Newfoundlanders, and of course I'm married to Roy from Newfoundland, and there's a great tendency to be very strongly connected to your roots, as in other areas as well in Canada and around the world. And from a Christian biblical perspective, we read Colossians 2 and 7 that says, let your roots grow down into him and draw nourishment from him, so that you will grow in faith, strong and vigorous in the truth you were taught. Let your lives overflow with thanksgiving for all he has done. And then Ephesians 3:17 to 19. And I pray that Christ will be more and more at home in your hearts as you trust in him. May your roots go down deep into the soil of God's marvelous love, and may you have the power to understand, as all God's people should, how wide, how long, how high, and how deep his love really is. May you experience the love of Christ, though it is so great you will never fully understand it. Then you will be filled with the fullness of life and power that comes from God. And so we're true to our roots from a human perspective, but also to our roots as a Christian, and to have our roots deep in the soil of God's love. God bless you.